Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Nityaramamritam Gamaya Aviravirmayehi Rudrayate Dakshinamukam Tena Mam Pahi Nityam Tena Mam Pahi Nityam Tena Mam Pahi Nityam. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Reveal to us thy resplendent truth. And evermore protect us, O Lord, by thy sweet and compassionate face. By thy sweet and compassionate face. By thy sweet and compassionate face. The subject of my talk this morning is God's play in man. Blessed is the devotee of God who can see the universe, the cosmos, as God's play. There are many ways, many manners in which we can look up to God, we can contemplate on God. Many of religion, philosophers, thinkers, even scientists have given a picture of God. But there is this picture of God, God as a great player. The whole universe is his playground. And there is no end to the games he plays. One such game is playing in man. Today happens to be the birthday of one of the great teachers of Vedanta, Shankaracharya, the most eminent propounder of monistic Vedanta, Advaita. Of course, he was a bhakta, he was a mystic, he was a scholar, he was an unusually great man. We have in our Santodhyan Garden of Saints, in the northwest corner, the Shankara Mount, and we have a statue of Shankaracharya. Most of you must have seen that statue. And that murti has been garlanded this morning. If you like, after the service, you can go pay your respects to this great Vedanta teacher. Usually, we pay respects to him in July, the Guru Purnima Day, which will be this year, sometime 12th of July, I think. But we shall not be able to do any function there this year. We pay to our homage to Vedantic teachers out in that lawn there in the Shankara Mount, remember. But that is not his actual birthday, but today happens to be coincided with Shankaracharya's actual birthday. But the subject of this morning's talk is very relevant to Shankaracharya's teachings. The play of God in man. God's cosmic play is important to develop our bhakti, devotion, our faith. And atheists think that nature is sufficient, everything happens through the laws of science, the laws of physics, chemistry, biology, astronomy, and so on. That we need of assuming God. But the man of religion, a spiritual seeker, cannot stop there. He assumes all that you discover in science is true. But at the back of all these mysterious things, mysterious truths you have discovered, there must be a conscious intelligence. And that conscious intelligence is God. And so he sees this universe as this play of God. He prays to God, he sings hymns to God in terms of his creation. As in the Bhagavad Gita, we read that this universe is really the glory of God, and we have to meditate on specific glories. Everywhere where our attention is drawn reveals the glory of God. So he thinks God as the creator and the sustainer, and he is playing in the sky, he is playing in the stars, he is playing in the celestial bodies. Dharma is playing in the mountains, in the ocean, in the rivers, in the flowers, in the trees, in the leaves. For him, for a devotee of God, he likes to think of God in terms of the various movements in nature. But Shankaracharya says that the work of God in man is most important for man. Let me recite a hymn, a verse written by Shankaracharya in adoration to Brahman, how he is playing in this vast universe and is playing with man through his three states of experience, waking, dream and sleep. When he is awake, he is experiencing this gross, mysterious universe. And he is in love with this mysterious universe, this earth, this whatever comes, he enjoys. Of course, he enjoys both pleasure and pain, but his waking life is his most charming life. Then Brahman brings man to another level of experience, the dream state. And there man experiences subtle things. Thoughts become real. Most incoherent ideas become real. most irrational ideas he sees and finds them as real. When he wakes up, he says to himself, what absurd things I saw. But it is also a dream, it is also a state, an experience, you cannot deny that. So Shankaracharya says, this is all God's play. Waking experience, you fall in love with life and this world. But you have to sleep. Without sleep you cannot live. You cannot just be satisfied with only one experience, the gross experience. So he brings the dream experience, subtle experience. And then there comes a time when the subtle also goes and everything becomes unified. That is the sleep experience. So through these three states of experience, God is playing with man as the eternal witness, as his true self, as the witness, as the fourth Turiya of the three states. Waking, dream, sleep, and the observer is God as the individual self. Now man has to discover this play. God is playing this hide and seek game with man. So he is bringing these three states, standing alone and waiting for man to discover this game. Let me repeat this original Sanskrit verse. The first part of this verse I will give. Pragganam supratanai sthiracharanikara vyabhivyatyalokam bhuktva bhogan stavishtam punarapi dishanadabhasitam kamajanyan ditva sarvam visheshan sapiti madhurabhum maya bhojanam Maya Sankhya Turiyam Paramamritamajam Brahmayattam Nato Vasuni. I bow down to Brahma, the deathless, the birthless, immortal being, who is bringing to man, one after the other, these three states of experience. Waking, dream and sleep. But he is the fourth, the Turiya, the self in man. And God wants man to discover this game and be free. The cosmos, the great objects, the mountains, the stars, the sun and the moon, they are creations of God, they are also plays of God, but they are not evolved in that point where they can discover God. So one chapter of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, God as the inner controller is controlling the sun, the stars, the sky, the earth and all objects in nature, but they do not know. It is only man who can know God, who can discover that player. So, we read in the Upanishads how this game goes on and how eventually some man, not in one birth, but maybe in some birth, he discovers this play of God. So we read in the Katha Upanishad that God, a man was created with the potentiality, great spiritual potentiality, like a time bomb. Sometime the bomb will explode, but the possibility is there inside the bomb. So Within man there is that element of knowledge, element of freedom, like God. Man, when created, God put into man a potentiality, something like him, which in the Bible we read, he created man in the image of God, in the image of himself, in his own image. And Vedanta says that is the self. But God wanted to play. He did not create man so that by being born he will know the truth. No. So the Kathopanishad says, when he created man, he created his senses outgoing. Paranchi khani vatinat sayambhu. The self-existent being that God, he created the indriyas, the sense organs of man. Paranchi is outgoing. He will see the outside. He will not see what is inside. And that is his game. He wanted to do that. Let him enjoy this world, let him see with his eyes, let him hear with his ears, let him smell with his nose, let him touch all his sense experiences, and he has a mind, let him wonder, let him think, let him feel. But he will not be able to easily find me. That is the game. So the Katha Upanishad describes this. The man was born, though he has that intelligence, he cannot discover the truth because his senses are outgoing. So this play goes on, and God has given man the freedom to act, but in creation there is the principle of good and bad, dharma and adharma, which is not related to any other animals, any other created object. They have to follow the rule of nature. The sun is doing its function according to the strict rule. And that rule is God's rule. All the rules, all the laws that science is discovering is God's laws, God's mind. So that these objects has a pattern of slave life, that to follow the round which is there within. But with man the case is different. Man's intelligence has the freedom, free will, dharma and adharma. If you live by dharma, then you will evolve, your intelligence, your potentiality will evolve. And more, you will have higher visions of truth. What is this world actually? What is me? What I am here for? Normally, the man thinks I am here for living, for enjoying, for living, for happiness and all. These are common perspectives. But man has to discover if there are higher perspectives of life, if there are higher goals of life. So it is a game. It is a hide and seek game. God says to man, I am hiding myself. You discover. You have the power to discover. I have given you the conscience. I have given you the intelligence. I have given you the discretion. You can find God. You can find me and then be free. So, man's life in bondage means he's playing his role but at the same time he has an initiative of progress. That is why he craves for knowledge, he craves for progress, prosperity, security. He craves for progeny. This is all in the game, a part of this game. Then sometimes this question comes, may not be in one life, but sometimes this question comes, what does all this mean? I have read so many books, I have made my health all right, I have a family, I have children, I have prosperity, but at the same time I have to suffer illness, I have to suffer bereavement. So this life is not all sunshine. He slowly discovers this. It is a mixture of dualities. It is a mixture of opposites. So this is the dawn of spiritual inquiry. He wants to know the subtler nature of this world, and he wants to understand himself. So we read in the Kena Upanishad, one of the Upanishads. The Kena means by whom? By whom my mind is working, by whom my eyes are able to see, and my ears are able to hear, by whom my prana, my life energy is functioning. That is the inner question, questioning about himself. That means a dissatisfaction has come. The sense of dissatisfaction has come. All that I am experiencing is not enough. There is something more. There is something more. I have to go deeper. I have to rise higher. So, just as Jesus Christ said, ask, it shall be given you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. So the same idea we find in the Upanishads, and Shankaracharya explains this elaborately in his commentaries of the Upanishads, in his commentary of the Bhagavad Gita, and in many of his independent works of Vedanta. So this inquiry comes, who is there at the back of my senses? Who is there at the back of my mind, my life principle, my vitality? Who is there at the back of my existence, that all the time I am feeling that I am, this world is, this idea of existence, and the fact that I want to live, I don't want to die. In other words, the urge for immortality, from where does it come? Why is not man rational enough? Yes, I am born, I am dying, what is the good? What is the matter? No, that won't satisfy. Man wants to live as many years as possible. So the Upanishad brings this topic. We have to find the source of this question in man. And that inquiry is self-inquiry. And the Upanishads deal with this question, how man through reason, not logical reasoning, but it is called tri-basic reasoning, Vedantic reasoning, examination of this world, examination of myself, my body, my mind, my ego. For this examination, some disciplines are necessary. In Vedanta, we call it the 6 disciplines, the 6 treasures. Shama means control of mind. Dhamma means control of senses. Titiksha means forbearance. Shraddha means faith in God and faith in the teachings of the seers. And Uparati means inwardness, and Samana means contemplation. These are the 6 treasures which we have to cultivate. And by that, man develops the power of Vedantic reasoning and inquiry. And he begins to see that at the back of my eyes there is a seer. The real seer is not the eye, but the self, but a conscious being that through the eye is seen. And there is a conscious being that is enabling us to have the experience of sound. Sight, sound, smell, touch, all these experiences. And the mind is bringing thoughts, emotions, but at the back of all these, there is a seer, that fourth, that turiya. So when with these disciplines the mind becomes more and more pure, the more and more subtle, then this mind and more can discover consciousness. Consciousness in the eyes, consciousness in the ear. Whatever experience comes, that pure mind, that reflective mind is able to see the working of God. The working of God as my true self. The true self is covered by 5 walls, is imprisoned in 5 walls. In Vedanta we call the 5 koshas, the 5 sheaths, this gross body, the vital body, the body of the mind, manomaya kosha, the body of the ego, the jnanamaya kosha, from where the sense of individuality is coming, and finally anandamaya kosha, the causal body, where all sense of pleasure or happiness is coming. But all these 5 koshas and walls, and in the core of that prison, there is the shining, immortal self, that immortal God in me. Now this situation, the imprisonment of God in these 5 walls of our personality, Shankaracharya calls the editado, adhyasa, superimposition. Somehow due to Maya, that self is identifying self with this body and says, I am the body. Identifying self with this mind and says, I am thinking, I am feeling. Identifies with this little ego and says, I. Identifies self with this causal body and says, I am enjoying, I am happy. All these things called superimposition. Now the superimposition can go by self-knowledge, to know that I am nothing of these, I am neither matter nor mind nor prana, neither the eye nor the ear, but I am what I am, indescribable. Yet I am the support of everything. It is in me, that real being, that self, that this whole show is going on. Objectively outside we call it God. God is the master of this soul. And inside Shankaracharya says, Shankaracharya does not make this original statement. This is already in Upanishads. Shankaracharya explains that. When man finds himself, he finds that it is me. When all these things are negated, when you are born, when by your it is not merely a word, but through gradual analysis, you can be detached. You can detach from whatever you experience through the senses. You can detach yourself from the mind, from your ego, and stand on yourself. This possibility is there. In the Upanishads, we find a character, the sage Vamadeva. His account is given in the Shraddhananda Upanishad and also in the Aitariya Upanishad, which is from the Veda. In the Aitariya Upanishad says, this rishi, this sage, says, through so many births I had been imprisoned as if in chains, iron chains, in this so-called body. Life after life I was imprisoned and go through this happiness and tears, through all these dualities of life. I enjoyed, but I also suffered. And slowly I began to learn that this is not the goal of life, this imprisonment. There is such a thing as freedom. So I wanted to be free. And each life I tried. And now I have just as an imprisoned eagle. If an eagle is imprisoned, and if sometimes he comes out of the cage, so like the free bird, free eagle, I am now free. We declare, we find this declaration. And this course of suffering, how man suffers in the Aitariya Upanishad. And in the Shraddhananda Upanishad, it is also said about the same sage Vamadeva that he one day realized, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. The highest nature of God, the highest truth of God, which is above creation, is the same as my true nature. When I am a limited man, I am a man or a woman, I am happy or miserable, I am afraid or I am fearless. So many roles I play. Each role is a game of God. But when all play is gone, then I am what I am. So the declaration is Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. And it is said in that chapter of Shraddhananda Upanishad that whoever realizes this becomes free. Whoever among the gods or among men, among sages, realizes this truth, the ultimate nature of man, then he becomes free. So God wants that. God has created man in his image, means through all these experiences, one day he will be able to realize me. God can be realized on many levels, no doubt. He can be realized through forms, through devotion, through bhakti. But this is the Advaita, the non-dualistic Vedanta says, the highest spiritual achievement is when you go through all these other experiences, dualistic experiences of religion or mysticism. One one day it is possible to realize that beyond all these objective experiences, I am this or I am that, whatever experience comes to us according to Advaita Vedanta is a distortion of the highest truth. When you say vast car, you are insulting the true nature of this car. Really, this car is Brahman. Really, time is Brahman. Really, any objective thing you see or hear or smell is Brahman. At the back there is that vast Brahman consciousness. And anything we experience is a limited experience. So if someday you can experience the true nature of the self, then you really come to the highest. But to go to the highest, we have to pass through different experiences of devotion, prayer. Shankaracharya, the great teacher, explains this in his works. He himself has written many wonderful hymns to Shiva, to Krishna, to God. Devotion, meditation, study of scriptures, all these things are necessary. But the Upanishads say, but don't forget the highest possibility, the highest goal that a spiritual seeker can reach, the knowledge of Brahman, the ultimate knowledge of man's true self. When man understands this, knows this, he becomes free from all grief and delusion. He knows for certain, just as Mundala Upanishad says, Chittate Granthi Viddante Sarpa Samshaya. All doubts disappear. All knots of heart are broken, and all karma, accumulated karma of the past, all karma is burned when this self-knowledge comes. So that is the appeal of not self-knowledge. When self-knowledge comes, then God says, now no more game. I cannot play with you anymore. Even when you are a devotee of God, there was a game, wonderful games. Bhaktas, devotees of God, sing and enjoy the companionship of God, the love of God, ecstasy. That is far from worldliness, no doubt. It's far from worldliness, worldly enjoyment. The enjoyment of God through devotion is a wonderful level of spiritual experience, no doubt. But passing through, there are some spiritual seekers who do not want self-knowledge. They want to remain separate from God. I shall remain ever the devotee of God. From life to life I may be born, but I shall remain a devotee of God. Because by then I shall be able to adore God. I shall be able to enjoy the company of God in nature. Life has no passions anymore for a bhakta, for a devotee of God. The life of senses, you see, there is no material life for him. He may be a family man, but the perspective has completely changed. It is God. God is playing the role of wife. God is playing the role of children. It is God. That is a wonderful level of spiritual life, no doubt. That is also play, a superior kind of play. God is there and I am his companion, playmate is there. But the game goes on. But when man comes to the ultimate self-knowledge, when he is able to feel I am Brahman, the individual self is really one will be true self. When this knowledge of Advaita or non-dualistic knowledge comes, again the play is over. So, in spiritual life, when we more and more begin to see this play of God, that is a wonderful fulfillment of life. A person who has developed that faith in God, the love of God, is able to be in this world in the company of God. He is never sorry. Even when great calamities come, he can say it is also God's play. God did not say, I will play only to make you smile. No, our cry is also a part of God's game. God gives us maybe 5 children, and one day one child is taken away. A true devotee of God cries, he is sad, but he knows it is God's play, it is God's will. So he does not begin to curse God. Oh God, why did you do it to me? You could have done to Mr. So-and-so next door. But why do you do it to me? Mr. So-and-so does not go to the church, but I go to the church. Why should you do that to me? That is our usual attitude. But a true devotee of God, his thinking is different. He is thinking if it is God's play. God is through all these experiences of smiles and tears, is making me pure, is making me to strengthen my faith, to strengthen my love. He never loses his faith. In this way his spiritual life goes. And this bhakta, this devotee of God, does not mind being born again and have the same God. If the great companion God is with me, what do I fear? I can play, and God is with me. That is the life of, that is also Vedanta. Devotion, bhakti is also Vedanta. But then there is this non-dualism which Shankaracharya elaborately explained. Some persons want, after this play of devotion is over, he wants to have that highest experience of the self, because by that time all his attachments have gone. He is not attached to anything. So he is prepared. He is prepared to have that experience of the immortal self, where one knows for certain that I was never born. This whole world was really Brahman. It is Brahman who appeared as the manifold. Really all the time there is one unity. And this is called adhyasa, superimposition. One appears to be many. So he discovers this truth, and he then, again, this game, this play is over. So to look upon God as a master player in this cosmos and also in me is a wonderful approach. The instructions necessary to go there, and if you are interested, you can go and you can inquire at our office. You can give lectures. That is Saturday, May 9th. And instead of my closing chant, you will listen in tape a composition of Shankaracharya the Nibbana Shatkam, the 6 verses on Nibbana. Swami Vivekananda translated this Nibbana Shatkam into English. I wanted to read that, but I forgot to bring my book. The idea is negation. As a knower of self, he is saying, I am not this space, I am not this time, I am not the eyes, I am not this mind, I am not this ego. Everything is negating and standing. Shivoham, Shivoham. I am Shiva, I am Shiva. At the end of each verse, you will see saying, I am Shiva, I am Shiva. These have been sung by a very well-known musician of Bombay. So you shall hear that tape. And the 6 verses, Swami Vivekananda's translation is also wonderful on this Nibbana Shatkam, written by Shankaracharya.
Jnana Shivoham